Hello and welcome tonight. With just a few hours to the governorship and state assembly elections, civil society organizations charge the electoral body to ensure that the glitches of the last election are not repeated on Saturday. Independent National Electoral Commission says supplementary elections for the presidential and National Assembly polls will not hold on Saturday, but on a date to be announced by the Commission. Police in Kaduna arrest some members of the Islamic movement in Nigeria after clashing with the security operatives in Governor Nasir El-Rufai's convoy.
Federal Inland Revenue Service and the UK Revenue Agency sign agreements to boost tax collection.
On sports news tonight, Ghana hosts state funeral for former Black Stars winger Christian Atsu, who died in the earthquake in southern Turkey last month.
And from Abuja, President Muhammadu Buhari sentenced to 16 constitutional alteration bills and 3 others before leaving for Daura to participate in the governorship and state assembly elections in his home state.
And in international news from London, officials say China's President Xi Jinping will travel to Moscow next week to hold talks with Russian President Vladimir Putin.
It's just a few hours to the governorship and state assembly elections across the country. Unlike the presidential polls, however, governorship elections will only take place in 28 out of the 36 states in the country, as 8 states have their governorship elections at different times from the general elections. Generally referred to as off-cycle elections, the affected states are Anambra, Bayelsa, Edo, and Ekiti. The others are Imo, Kogi, Ondo, and Osun states. Out of the 20 states where governorship elections are taking place, 11 of the states have governors seeking re-election on the ballot. In the northeast, the governors of Adamawa, Bauchi, Borno, Gombe, and Yobe are all seeking re-election in their states, while in the northwest, only the governor of Zamfara state is seeking re-election in that region. Staying in the north, this time in the north central, the governors of Kwara and Nasarawa are also seeking re-election. Down south, the governors of Lagos, Ogun, and Oyo are also seeking re-election in their various states. Elections will have a hold in all the 993 state constituencies nationwide. The elections are coming 3 weeks after the presidential and National Assembly elections, which held throughout the country on February 25th. Originally scheduled to hold on March the 11th, the electoral body INEC postponed the election by 1 week. Now, the Presidential Election Tribunal restrained the Commission from tampering with all sensitive materials, including the BVAS, used in the conduct of the presidential poll, following the request by the candidates of the PDP and the Labour Party LP, that's Atiku Abubakar and Peter Obi. INEC says the postponement was to make for adequate timing to reconfigure the bimodal voter accreditation system, otherwise known as BVAS, ahead of the governorship and state assembly polls. Meanwhile, ahead of Saturday's governorship election, civil society groups are asking the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, to ensure that the elections isn't defined by barriers and challenges as may have been experienced during the presidential election. Some of the CSOs spoke to journalists in Abuja, the nation's capital. We'll have more on that story later. Well, let's find out the level of preparations for the elections in some of the states. Residents of the 6 states that make up the South-South region of the country are anticipating a peaceful election while setting a development agenda for the incoming governors and House of Assembly members. Our next report takes a look at the teething issues facing the residents of the region and their expectations from the winners that will emerge from the election come Saturday.
Bayelsa, Edo, Rivers, Delta, Cross River, and Akwa Ibom are the 6 states that make up the South-South region of the country. While all 6 of them will be partaking in the House of Assembly elections, there'll be no governorship elections in Bayelsa and Edo states. The expectation of residents in Delta states is that there should be peace even after the polls.
I would suggest during elections, if our people will just block their ears, don't listen to the politicians, go out there and cast your vote. When you cast it, you protect it. That way peace will come. We need peace.
In Akwa Ibom State, the ask is that INEC should improve on its processes.
I believe this coming Saturday, INEC should try and improve on their network, on their timing, because most of us went out very early. Like me, I left home around 5:30 to meet up to my own unit, but ended up staying there till 11.
In River State, the residents call on the incoming administration to swiftly address critical issues such as unemployment and create an enabling environment for businesses to thrive.
We must do something about bringing employment back to the people, creating environments where the people themselves can create opportunities. It's not all about white-collar job. And River State is a place that has so much that we can build on.
We want to equally see a government that will engage Rivers people. Government don't know it all. We want to see robust engagement so that government can come from below.
Regarding preparations, voters in Cross River State say they are ready for the elections on Saturday. Residents in Edo State remind the candidates that a vote from the people is a call to duty.
The greater good of Edo is what should be the drive of each and every one of us. Now that the elections are by the corner, and expectedly new representatives will have the privilege to come on board in the later to be constituted Edo State House of Assembly, it's my hope, my prayer, my expectation that those saddled, they will not, for whatever reason, any reason whatsoever, abdicate that responsibility.
A legal practitioner in Yenagoa, the Bayelsa State capital, and the national vice president of the Ijaw National Congress call on legislators that will emerge from the polls to ensure that they adequately represent the people.
The governor is elected by everybody to carry out acts, but you see, the parliamentarians are the mouthpiece of the people. So when you have a situation where you have councillors at the local government level, you have members of the assembly, you have a member in the House of Representatives, and you have a senator. So you have 4 persons speaking for us, and then our voices cannot be heard, and they're still under development. Then the question should be, what are the indices used in selecting a particular candidate? And then people should actually select those candidates that understand the work of the legislature.
The consciousness of the people is that better candidates should be voted for to be in the House of Assembly than other persons who have been moribund and have been mute over citizens' problems and democratic principles. There is need to respect democratic tenets and principles and practices. Are these House of Assembly members before and now will obey these principles? Are they really doing their work perfectly according to the citizens' quest? Whether no or yes, we expect that incoming administration or members of House of Assembly may do better.
With less than 24 hours to the governorship and House of Assembly polls, residents are hopeful that the emerging winners will hearken to their yearnings and boost the economic development of the South-South region.
Well, back to the story on the meeting between the civil society groups and the Independent National Electoral Commission. Well, they are asking the electoral umpire, that's the CSOs, to ensure that the election is not defined by barriers and challenges as may have been experienced during the presidential poll. Well, some of the CSOs spoke to journalists in Abuja, the nation's capital.
The February 25 presidential election, according to some election observers, fell short of expectations. For the state elections, the civil society organizations say they are not ready for any slips, so they appeal to the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, to be better prepared and avoid all hitches.
These citizen observers will be giving us parallel vote tabulation at the polling unit level so that their results can be protected, so that we can publish same on different platforms to Nigerians to ensure that the integrity of the process is kept and respected by all.
In Saturday elections, we expect to actually see increased vote buying, because that is why we came up with the phrase that politics is actually local, with different intervening factors playing out, and now possibly with the more availability of Naira. But it's also been a consistent trend in previous elections that there are more vote buying during the subnational elections compared to the presidential elections, and we still expect the same trend to hold forth in the Saturday elections.
The Albino Foundation, TAF, says their assessment of the conduct of the presidential elections vis-à-vis the participation of persons with disabilities left much to be desired.
This election should not be defined by the barriers and challenges of the electoral violence, the lateness of polling officials, insufficient provision of assistive tools, and communication gap faced in the presidential election, both at the polling unit and at the collection center, regarding the transmission of results.
A civil society organization under the aegis of the Inclusive Friends Association is also asking the Independent National Electoral Commission to take deliberate steps in ensuring early deployment.
INEC needs to take deliberate steps in the forthcoming governorship election and state assembly election to ensure the effective deployment and the usage of assistive materials as mandated by the Electoral Act.
It's the 2023 governorship and state houses of assembly elections. The Nigerian electorate are hoping that INEC would have improved on its processes, ensuring proper coordination, adequate security, early deployment, and guaranteed safety of voters and poll officials.
Attention appears to be building up in Port Harcourt, the River State capital, ahead of the governorship and state assembly elections tomorrow. This comes as 4 governorship candidates of some political parties in the state have stormed the state police headquarters protesting alleged intimidation by security agents. The opposition parties are alleging that their members and supporters are being arrested by security agents.
Convoy coming in the opposite direction, and the security details attached to the governor's convoy opened fire on the protesters, and in the process killed some of their members and injured several others. In Niger State, 5 people have also been reported killed after gunmen launched an attack on 2 communities in Paikoro and Munya local government areas. The village head, a medical practitioner, and the security officials, as well as a vigilante, were killed by the attackers, who also abducted well over 60 people, including women and children. Some of the residents told Channels Television that the gunmen, numbered about 100, invaded Beni and 2 groups in broad daylight at about 2 p.m. on Monday and raided one house after another, dispossessing the people of their money, foodstuff, and other valuables. At Beni, the group killed the village head when they sighted him returning from the farm and abducted some people, mostly women and children, while at Adunu community, a medical practitioner was killed when he attempted to escape into the bush on sighting the gunmen. It was gathered that those who could afford between 10 to 20,000 naira cash were set free by the gunmen. After raiding the 2 communities, the attackers reportedly ran into an ambush by the Joint Security Task Force as they made their way into Kaduna State, where a gunfight ensued, leading to the death of a member of the Joint Security Task Force and a local vigilante. To legal matters, the Court of Appeal in Abuja has dismissed an appeal for bail by Sunday Ubwa, an associate of the suspended Deputy Commissioner of Police Abba Kyari. Delivering judgment, a 3-man panel held that Mr. Ubwa's appeal lacks merit. In the lead judgment, Justice Stephen Adder held that the appellant placed no new materials before the court to warrant it to depart from the earlier decision on the issue by Justice Emeka Wite of the Federal High Court, Abuja. Justice Adder also affirmed the ruling by Justice Wite, which on March 28, 2022, rejected Ubwa's application for bail on the grounds that the prosecution placed sufficient materials before the court to warrant its rejection of the bail application. Mr. Ubwa, who is an Assistant Commissioner of Police, is standing trial with Abba Kyari and 3 other former members of the Intelligence Response Team of the Nigeria Police on charges relating to unlawful dealing in drugs and attempting to tamper with evidence. They're being prosecuted by the National Drug Law Enforcement Agency, NDLEA. And staying with legal matters, the National Judicial Council, NJC, under the chairmanship of the Chief Justice of the Federation, Justice Olukayode Ariwola, has recommended the immediate compulsory retirement of the Chief Judge of Taraba State High Court, Justice Philibus Adetor. A statement by the NJC's Director of Information, Soji Oye, explains that the Council recommended Justice Adetor for compulsory retirement following the findings of an investigation committee into a petition written against them by a former Minister for National Planning, Senator Mohammed Sanusi Dagash. Senator Dagash, who is a member of the House of Representatives for Mate, Mungono, and Ngazi in Borno State, had alleged that Justice Adetor failed to deliver judgment in the suit of Malam Kasim Yahya Ahmed versus Shitu Womo and Shuwari Farms Limited, 30 months after adoption of final addresses by the parties. The NJC found that the Taraba State CJ indeed breached the provisions of the Constitution and therefore recommended him to Governor Darius Ishaku for compulsory retirement. The NJC at the meeting also considered the report of one of its complaints assessment committees and agreed with the committee's recommendation to empanel 4 committees to further investigate petitions against 4 judges. And still ahead on the news at 10, Federal Inland Revenue Service and UK Revenue Service sign an agreement to boost tax collection. That's on Business News. Please stay with us.
Welcome back. Well, the crisis rocking Edo State-owned Ambrose Ali University should be resolved within the next 90 days. Well, that's coming from Governor Godwin Obaseki. Well, Governor Obaseki made the comment or the commitment after engaging the institution's community at the main campus in Ekpoma in Esan West local government area of Edo State, where he promised to address all the issues listed ranging from alleged sack of lecturers to unpaid salaries of workers.
The presence of many traditional rulers from Ekpoma and its surrounding communities inside the main auditorium of Ambrose Ali University suggests this gathering is not for an academic exercise.
You are welcome, sir.
It's actually a reconciliatory meeting at the instance of the Edo State Governor Godwin Obaseki to resolve the issues threatening to shut down the institution.
If we all sit down, accept and talk about it, what problem can we not solve? But what we must never do is mix politics with academics.
When the floor opens for contributions from different stakeholders, the major complaints are non-implementation of policies, wrongful dismissal, and dissolution of the special intervention team set up by the state government to run the university.
The laws have stated that because of reposition of the university, we hereby disengage them. They were not tried or convicted of any misconduct or gross misconduct or violation of the university rules and regulations.
December 12, 2017, you were seated here. I was writing this off. We had a discussion with you and the then Vice Chancellor, Professor Otimao. Issues between us two, everybody were on the ground, and you promised to solve the issue. Now we are back to that same issue.
It is true that you have the good intention of repositioning the university, but the wrong persons were sent to come and manage the affairs of a university.
Mr. Obaseki agrees to look into the grievances immediately. The last request, however, will follow due process.
It's going to wind down within 90 days. That's the limit. By then, it is going to hand over to a governing council. I'm sorry, you see, you cannot, there's a process, there's a bill in the House now, amending the law of the university. It's part of the reform. And after that, the council is set up.
In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the glory of God. Amen.
Before leaving, Governor Godwin Obaseki commissions an administrative building block in the Ambrose Ali University main campus, Ekpoma.
Nigerians have continued to express mixed feelings over the current scarcity of premium motor spirit in the nation's capital. While some heave a sigh of relief as the long queues have reduced, others decry the lack of adequate cash to purchase the product, as payment via bank electronic platforms have also become increasingly challenging. Our correspondent Dele Omoyeni tells us more.
Fuel scarcity in Nigeria's seat of power has been a perennial challenge since February of 2022. However, in December, the menace disappeared, with several residents applauding the relevant authorities for the improvements in the availability of products. The progress made suddenly vanished some weeks to the 2023 presidential elections, as long queues suddenly appeared, with the attendant black market sellers also resurfacing. The past few days have seen some level of improvements, albeit some motorists insist it can be better.
For the past 2-3 days, it has been very easy anyway. I think if you ask me, at least there's a slight improvement as it is now. There is more improvement now than it were before. So slightly there's improvement. Our major problem, I think, should be the issue of currency. But fuel for now is getting better.
However, the cash crunch brings a new twist to the matter, as the alternatives to cash have not made things easier either.
Don't tire even me, don't tire me. Even the cash have no day. To withdraw your money no day. What do you want me to make do? When I give them my card now, decline. Every day sufferness. What do they want me to do for this country? I don't understand. See now, let's see if you don't get cash, cannot buy fuel. Where's the cash? Now you see now, see what the guy they tell me now. Say if I don't have cash, I cannot enter police station. So what thing now? I don't have fuel inside this car now, and I have my card to buy fuel or to buy even food. It's a problem.
It will take a longer time because of the POS, and after I do the POS, they will charge you. The POS people will charge you on the account, and again they will charge you.
Meanwhile, frustration continues to linger in the nation's capital as bank customers struggle at automated teller machines across the city to withdraw cash. Days after the CBN's directive to the commercial banks, a visit by our correspondent Victoria Longjohn to some banks at the FCT shows long queues at ATMs and some banks still without cash.
It's been 3 days since the CBN directive that the old 200, 500 and 1,000 naira notes remain legal tender. Today, I'm here on the streets of Abuja to try to get some money for myself.
The queue is too long, so I head to another bank. This bank has no cash, so I try the ATM of another bank, and the situation is the same. Finally, I find a bank where I could get some money. I could only withdraw 3,000 naira, but it's better than nothing.
I finally got my hands on some cash and even spent it. But how many Nigerians are this lucky?
This is what they paid me at the counter, 3,000. 3,000 they paid me. Yes, that's what they are paying everybody at the counter there. No ATM. ATM is not working.
Unfortunately.
I just sincerely apologize for that mix-up. Well, that actually happened earlier. Well, still, the situation in the nation's capital continues to linger concerning customers struggling at automated teller machines across the city and not being able to withdraw cash, despite the CBN's directive to commercial banks. And here's our correspondent, Victoria Longjohn.
The waiting lines are everywhere. Some of these bank customers got to the lines as early as 6 a.m. just to get a bit out of the cash loaded in the automated teller machines. After many hours of waiting, these ones can wait no more. Resignation on their faces, and even when they smile, it's not deep.
There is no cash.
By the time you queue for a very lengthy hours and you discover that the money there is not enough for you, just a few number of people will get, and others will not. So you have to keep moving to where any ATM that you see or any bank that you see that has cash in it.
Elsewhere, some customers are lucky to get some cash.
GTB Bank, which is my bank, I got here by 8 a.m. in the morning. So being on the queue, a lot of people were on the queue. Some people will just come, they will just shunt in the queue. And I took my time. I stood there for I just got 10,000 naira just now.
I've been here for the past 6 hours, and I've been at the ATM queue, and I was able to go in and I withdraw my money, which is 10,000 naira, as permitted by the ATM. And I'm so happy. It has not been easy. Standing on the queue is so hectic.
These ones are not so lucky. They are shocked and frustrated to see the cash they've been waiting for taken away by a bank staff.
One man came out from nowhere, just went to the ATM machine and stood inside there. He has been there for over an hour. People were like, what is happening? Some people wanted to even fight him before they say he's a staff. So because they wanted to fight him, he called that they should shut down the ATM card. Then he left the ATM card. Later, when they retrieved, he came back and he stood there again. He was withdrawing. I think he had, I don't know how many ATM cards he had, because he has been withdrawing money.
Person like me, I came down here. I can't, because I can't struggle. I sit in the corner. The man is depriving the people that have money here to withdraw.
Frustration lingers as Nigerians are still desperate to get a hold of the Naira notes. They brave.
All right, still watching News at 10 live from Channels Television Lagos. We do sincerely apologize for that, a break in transmission due to some technical glitch. Let's moving on now. The International Criminal Court, the ICC, has issued a warrant of arrest for Russian President Vladimir Putin for alleged war crimes in Ukraine. He has been accused of forcibly deporting children from Ukraine to Russia. Well, Russia has rejected the ICC's decision and described the move as outrageous and unacceptable. Meanwhile, Vladimir Putin is the third serving president to be issued an ICC arrest warrant after Sudan's Omar al-Bashir and Libya's Muammar Gaddafi. Here's Simon Pusey with more on this and other international stories in Around the World in 5.
Good evening and welcome to the Channel's studios here in London with your international news around the world in 5. Officials say China's President Xi Jinping will travel to Moscow next week to hold talks with Russian President Vladimir Putin. China's Foreign Ministry spokesman Wang Wenbin said China would uphold an objective and fair position on the war in Ukraine and play a constructive role in promoting talks for peace. The Kremlin said they would discuss a comprehensive partnership and strategic cooperation. The visit comes as Beijing, an ally of Russia, has offered proposals to end the war in Ukraine, to which the West has given a lukewarm reception. China's peace proposals called for peace negotiations and respect for national sovereignty, but the 12-point document did not specifically say that Russia must withdraw its troops from Ukraine. The Kremlin has threatened to destroy any fighter jets given to Ukraine by its allies after two countries promised Soviet-era planes. Slovakia became the second NATO country to pledge Kyiv some MiG-29 aircraft a day after Poland. Ukraine has asked Western countries for modern jets like the F-16, but because of long training times, these are seen only as long-term options. Other NATO countries are considering sending Soviet-era planes such as the MiG, which Ukrainian pilots are trained to fly. Several cities in northeast Brazil are suffering from serious unrest caused by criminal gangs. For the third night, gang members set buses ablaze and carried out gun attacks on buildings in urban areas in Rio Grande do Norte state. The attacks are thought to have been sparked by conditions in jails holding gang members. Brazil's government sent hundreds of federal security forces to the region earlier this week. The state government has convened a crisis cabinet and has asked the federal government for more support. The death toll from a coal mine explosion in Colombia has nearly doubled to 21 after the bodies of 10 miners were discovered. Rescue teams had been scrambling to pull out the miners who were trapped underground after the blast as relatives waited for news nearby. The local governor says 9 people have made it out alive. Rescue workers in Malawi are recovering more bodies following the devastation caused by Tropical Storm Freddy, which has killed 326 people in the country so far. Soldiers have joined rescue operations and have been rummaging through debris in search of victims swept away by mudslides and floods. Here, President Lazarus Chakwera visiting victims of Cyclone Freddy in hospital. Chakwera has declared 14 days of national mourning and called for international support for relief efforts. He said that more than 80,000 people have been displaced. The Prince and Princess of Wales have celebrated St Patrick's Day with the Irish Guard. Prince William, the outgoing colonel of the Irish Guard, was joined by his wife Kate, the incoming colonel, at the St Patrick's Day parade in Aldershot. It is Kate's first time attending the parade as colonel of the regiment, having recently visited the 1st Battalion Irish Guards on Salisbury Plain. And a former Australian professional surfer has received a hero's welcome after riding his board for over 40 hours. Blake Johnston was carried above the heads of a cheering crowd on a Sydney beach on Friday. It's after he broke the world's longest recorded surfing session, moving past the previous mark held by the South African Josh Enslin of 30 hours and 11 minutes. Surfing more than 700 waves during his session, Johnson took on the world record to raise $225,000 for youth mental health initiatives.
Yeah, pretty good.
You just smashed the world record. Are you tired?
Yeah, I've still got a job to do though. I said 40, so we'll go and give it a crack.
Yeah, how are you feeling overall at the moment?
Yeah, pretty cooked. Thanks everyone, you're the best. Everyone deserves to feel awesome, so deserve to take care of yourselves and good on you.
And that's your international news around the world in 5. Now back to the channel studios in Lagos.
Many thanks, Simon. Welcome to Sports News. Ghana has held a state funeral for former Black Stars winger Christian Atsu following his death during the earthquake in southern Turkey last month. After its discovering the ruins, his body was flown back to Ghana 2 weeks later. Arriving draped in Ghana's national flag, mourners silently filed past Atsu's coffin in the parking lot of the country's parliament building in the capital, Accra. Family, fans and beneficiaries of Atsu's charity remembered him as a philanthropist as well as an outstanding footballer. In the Champions League, title holders Real Madrid have been drawn to play Chelsea in the quarterfinals. The tie is a repeat of last season's quarterfinals. Now, Pep Guardiola faces a reunion as Manchester City square off against Bayern Munich. Napoli take on AC Milan in an all-Italian showdown, while Inter Milan battle Benfica. The first legs will be played on April the 11th and 12th, while the second leg will come up on April the 18th and 19th. In the UEFA Europa League, Manchester United face record 6-time winner Sevilla in the quarterfinals, while Juventus will play Sporting Lisbon for a place in the last 4. AS Roma take on Feyenoord in a repeat of last season's Conference League final, with Bayer Leverkusen drawn against Union Saint-Gilloise of Belgium. The first legs will hold on April the 13th, with the return legs a week later. And that's a wrap on Sports News. I'm Victor Matthias. It's back to INEC.
Many thanks, Victor. And the main news again. Civil society organizations have charged INEC to ensure that the glitches of the last election are not repeated come Saturday. We also told you that the International Criminal Court has issued a warrant of arrest against Russian President Vladimir Putin over war crimes in the Ukraine. And that's the news at 10 tonight. Many thanks for watching. I'm Ayotunde Balogun. Good night and stay safe.